So, in order to judge whether God is evil or not, how do we understand what is good and what is evil? So, we all have a sense of right and wrong. I don't think anyone really disputes that. The problems occur when we start to talk about the specifics. We all have a moral compass, but not all moral compasses then point in the same direction. For some, north is that way, and others it's that way, and some people's moral compass spins like a helicopter. So when it comes to individual things, are they right or wrong? We can have great disagreements. Well, we know there is certainly something that is right and something that is wrong. Like abortion, for example. There are people who would say to deny the right to abortion is to deny a right, and it's absolutely wrong. And there are those who say abortion is absolutely wrong, and, well, how do you know what is right or wrong? If there are such huge differences, such differences in opinions, how can we tell? So in the West, we have rejected God, and we have thought up our own way of deciding what's right and wrong, and probably the most common way of looking at it, if we're going to look at right and wrong at all, some people deny that it exists altogether, but if we look at it at all, we tend to go down the hedonistic utilitarian route, which means basically if it meets my desires and it's good for whatever, then it's good. If it doesn't please me, if it's not what I want, or it doesn't help people, or it's going to be detrimental to people, then it's bad. But of course, who decides what's going to be good and what's going to be bad? You're back to the same question. But this way of thinking influences us, even as Christians, and it has a huge factor in understanding the issue of how can a good God, who's all-powerful, allow evil in the world? It has a big impact on the way we think about this question. How does this work out? Well, do you like suffering? Do you like pain? No, of course not. Well, then that's evil, isn't it? Because, well, that's not what we want. So that's evil. And just about all of us agree on that. We don't want suffering and pain. Thanks all the same. We want to avoid that. That's what painkillers are for. So suffering and pain are evil. And if there is a creator God who is all-powerful and who's loving, and he allows suffering and pain, well, that God must be evil. That's the logical conclusion. And if this is the way we think, this is the place we end up, and it's unavoidable. So the problem with judging God in this way, with this moral standard, is that in reality, it's not a moral standard at all. It is merely the way we express our preferences. We say, it's wrong because we don't like it. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means we don't like it. We say it's wrong because our opinion is different. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means our opinion is different. So this isn't really a moral way of making a judgment about God. The question is, how can we judge whether God is evil or good or not? But this way doesn't work. This is a fake morality. It's not morality at all. Because when it comes to the moral question, it's like, is murder wrong? Well, if murder was wrong yesterday, it's wrong today, and it'll be wrong tomorrow, and it doesn't matter how we feel about that. It doesn't matter what the prevailing mood about that is. It's just wrong, and it's always wrong. And that's an objective reality that doesn't depend on our preferences, our desires, or how we feel about it. Our spinning moral compass that depends on just how we feel cannot explain right or wrong. But when we look at God through this lens of our hedonistic utilitarianism, of just what we want, we will never be able to accept any explanation of how a good, all-powerful, loving God could allow evil in this world. It is just not possible for us to accept any explanation of that whatsoever. And so we need to examine a bit more closely what we're looking at here, about how we're thinking, because it really does affect how we view God. So with our hedonistic utilitarian way of thinking, we don't really have an honest basis for judging God, but we use it to judge God. And what we say is, God must be evil because he's doing what we don't want, and we will always come to that conclusion. This is exactly what sin is about, because we stand in judgment over God. But it is God who is the one who is judge over us. But we stand in judgment over him because he doesn't do what we want. And this is the essence of what sin actually is. This is our treachery against God. And we reject him with our judgment. But we also execute him by excluding him from our lives and from our societies and our world. And that is the ultimate treachery against the Creator. Maybe the question should be, who is evil? But the real question here today is, how do we make judgments about this? And what is influencing the way we think? And how is it influencing the way we think? And this hedonistic utilitarian way of thinking, this, if it makes me suffer, if it gives me pain, it's wrong. What is our basis for thinking that way? It's just really what we want. Give me what I want or else it's wrong. Is that a real way of judging what is right or wrong? Or is it just a con job? We need to recognize that this is not a way of judging what's right and wrong. It is merely a way of judging what we like and what we don't like. And pain and suffering are real. But how can we look at God and make an accurate judgment about God and what God is like if everything we judge is based on our preference? We can't. And so, first of all, before we can really get into looking at God and judging God, we need to judge ourselves and the method we're using to make this judgment about God. Because if it's based on our preferences and our own opinions, well, they're all different and they change with the prevailing wind. And so our compasses spin in different directions, because what's right today is wrong tomorrow. What's wrong tomorrow is right today, etc. And it all goes crazy. And it can be really insane. It is a ship at sea with a compass that's just spinning round and round. So if we really want to be able to judge God, we need to recognize that this way of thinking that we have is deceitful, self-serving, and is never going to come up with an honest answer. And we want an honest answer. So how can we have a truly objective moral basis for judging God? How can we do that? Where can we find this objective moral basis that is not dependent on how I feel, or what I like or what I don't like, or the prevailing wind of the moment, but that is always the same, like murder is always wrong? How do I judge God on that basis? What sort of basis can we find, can we have, that is objective and that does not change? And that is a question for the next video. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope you got something out of this. This is going in a direction. We'll get there eventually. But this is important, an important issue to deal with, because if we don't deal with this, we won't be able to accept a reasonable answer. So thank you for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next time. God bless. Bye.